Mind, and I'm speaking for myself, and so I don't know if everybody here agrees with me, but this is not our money, or this should not be the government's money. This should be about the hard-working assets that hard-working Ohioans have accumulated over the course of their life. And again, when you think of it being at $338,000, we're talking about middle class, folks. This is a middle class impact that hits small businesses, that hits farmers, and that hits squarely Ohio's middle class citizenry.
I'd like to echo Representative's comments. They don't just take their dollars. People respond to incentives. And right now, we're incentivizing our entrepreneurs, our best and brightest, ones that have accumulated wealth, to leave the state of Ohio. And they don't just take their dollars. They take their entrepreneurial spirit. They go to Florida, they go to Arizona, go to other places, and they start businesses. They look for opportunities. It's what they do. It's how they're wired. And they find a way to start businesses in other places. And boy, it'd be nice to have that back in Ohio. Not just their volunteer, not just their dollars that they donate, but their entrepreneurial spirit. And more of that to stay in Ohio.
Representative Grossman, you mentioned a couple times that cities will be able to make up this somehow. And can you provide some examples of how you foresee, either through revenue growth or through some other legislation, that they're going to be able to do that?
I believe with the restructuring of the Department of Development that we're going to see Ohio move in a very positive direction. And I think that that's the fair and equitable way to be able to fund these local governments that will be prosperous and permanent compared to an unknown double tax that we're dealing with at this point in time.
Sorry, are you just saying that job growth is going to make up for this? Is that?
I believe it will be a huge part of how we are able to fill in any gaps in that regard. We are aggressively going to be working with the administration on how we get jobs here. When you hear the 500,000 jobs that have left the state of Ohio, 90% of those have gone to other states, not overseas, not other countries. And we want to fix Ohio in many different ways. We want us to be business friendly, and I believe that we're going to be successful in that goal.
And Jim, today's day 2. Okay, today is day 2 in terms of turning the corner. We're not unveiling today everything, but I think it's safe to say that in the days and weeks and short months ahead, that how state government and how local government functions and what services are delivered and how those services are delivered are going to be transformed unlike they have ever been in the history of the state of Ohio. And so what I am suggesting is that the elimination of the estate tax is a part of that package of a significant reforming of local government. And so today is not the day where all of those are going to be unveiled, but I think you're going to see from the administration as well as from this caucus other initiatives that are really going to transform how services are delivered to Ohioans, both on the state and on the local level. So there's cost savings areas as well.
Representative Hottinger, you just said earlier, this is middle class. This is really middle class stuff here. 338,000. Is there some point at which, where does the middle class end in terms of its accumulated wealth? How do you define a middle class person?
Are you suggesting that a lifetime of working, Bill, is and all your assets in your home? You're suggesting that 338,000 is somehow not middle class? Is that?
Well, I don't know. I'm asking you kind of where. Is there some point in which somebody becomes rich as opposed to middle class?
Well, look, I'm not there. I don't know where wealthy starts and ends. But I will suggest this to you: is $338,000 a lot of money? Absolutely. Is that more money than most Ohioans will have accumulated and kept at the end of their lives? I think the record indicates that clearly that's the case. But if you were to say that someone spent an entire life investing in Ohio, creating jobs in Ohio, paying their taxes in Ohio, and they had the audacity at the end of their life to amass $338,000, that they're somehow rich, I would say that that's certainly not the case. And so, yes, this clearly does impact middle-class Ohioans. You know, when you think about these, I like referring, and I refer to it today as the estate tax because that's what it is, but I really would like to refer to it as the death tax, because when you talk about estate, you say, oh, that's something that, you know, I mentioned Dave Thomas, and I mentioned Howard Metzenbaum, and there's, you know, all those wealthy individuals that are out there. But the fact of the matter of it is that the way this tax is structured in the state of Ohio, with our low exemption, the lowest in the nation, we squarely are hitting not just wealthy people, but hardworking Ohioans, small business people, and farmers. And we've all had communities. As I said before, it's not the sunshine, and it's not the Gulf that drives many Ohioans on their deathbeds to the state of Florida and Arizona. It's the egregious policy and tax structure that we have in place in the state of Ohio, and today is the day that we start to reverse that.
If you buy a used car, you pay sales tax on it. The original owner also pays sales tax on it. So it's not really a double taxation on the second person who bought the car. How is this different?
I think you could suggest that there's some significant similarities there, and you know, this isn't about correcting all the injustices and all the flaws in a messed up, flawed tax system. But today, we're doing what we can, we think, to significantly turn the corner to make Ohio more competitive.
Well, let's talk about a real-world example. I have family and friends down, not my family, I have friends, a multi-generational farm down the road from where I farm, where I live, I farm with them. They're good farmers. They do a good job producing a crop, producing livestock. Unfortunately, they didn't do a very good job with estate planning. So the next generation, my age, when their father passed away, they got the opportunity to repurchase a farm that he had bought and paid for with his life at the time because of the estate tax, because they didn't do the planning. Shame on them. There's ways to mitigate that, but they didn't do that. So my generation of the farm and that farming family has the opportunity to buy the farm again. And that's the challenge. And we shouldn't be, and I would separate, I mean, small business, when we talk about small business people leaving the state of Ohio, going to places to avoid the tax. In most cases, farming operations, why it's such a big deal for farming operations is we don't have that opportunity to move. It's much more difficult for us to move our land base, our operations, our contacts to another state to take advantage of that. So that's why it's such important agriculture, and it's quite hard as you pay for a farm that your grandfather paid for, and your father paid for, and now you got to pay for it again because of the state tax.
What do you anticipate the timetable for this will be? Do you hope it passes through the House before the budget's introduced in March, or what do you? You're part of leadership.
We have a lot on our plate, and I know there's over 100 bills that are being introduced coming up in the next month. I hope that we can move just as quickly as we can as far as getting you a timetable. I'm not comfortable at this point in time saying we're going to do this before or after the budget, but I can tell you it's a high priority for the members of this caucus. And again, we have bipartisan support, which is a huge statement. We saw the Senate minority leader last night come out about this is about us together on behalf of people of Ohio. And I think that you're going to hear that statement again and again. It's time to put the politics aside, to move us forward, and to fix the many things in Ohio that could be run better, more efficient, and more beneficial to the people that call themselves the Buckeye.
How many Democrats are in support here? Could you just give us a breakdown on your co-sponsors, how many Republicans and Democrats?
We have, at this point in time, this is a truthful statement, Representative Oakey has said on the other side of the aisle with us.
Okay, one Democrat and how many Republicans?
27 Republicans at this point in time.
One concern you hear occasionally from national economists with our current situation in this country is that there is more and more a concentration of wealth among a few, and the middle class has suffered over the past several decades. The estate tax would seem to kind of address that issue in that, by taxing wealthier estates. Do you have any comment on that aspect? It seems to me that was why the estate tax was originally kind of part of the reason it was put in place was to sort of do away with or help with the concentration of wealth issue years and years ago?
Let me take a quick shot at that. That's a great question, and that needs to be debated. That needs to be debated at the national level. We are in competition with other states for people and jobs and the human wealth. And right now, because of our estate tax and some other tax policies, we're losing some of our best and brightest to other places. So it's a great debate, but it needs to be debated at the national level.
And I would also share, I've met with probably 200 companies in the last 2 years, and as I meet with them to say, what can we do better? How could Ohio be more business friendly to you? This is something that is consistently brought up as an issue, and those are a lot of the decision makers that choose where they're going to be located. We are so competitive with other states. We have got to get our economy going, and by doing that, we need to make Ohio attractive on many fronts. And for me to hear this from people that are running these companies, I think is a huge statement on how uncompetitive we are.
And keep in mind, we're not talking about doing something revolutionary here. 30 states have already done this. And there are some states that what I would even describe as progressive states that have already done this. So Ohio is already in the minority. We're one of 20 states. On top of that, to make it worse, is that we have a tax rate that ranges between 2 to 7%, and we also have the lowest threshold by far of when this tax takes effect. And so again, we're not going to drop off a cliff here by going down the route that 30 other states have already preceded us.
Given the fact that Jay, let me, if I can add, one major issue, you talk about Bachman Farms. I'm a huge advocate for small business. It is a huge detriment to small business. I have a number of small business people that have actually are Florida residents. Their businesses are here in Ohio, and they've done it for the two reasons: the estate tax and the state income tax. The estate. And so the issue is it is a huge hit on small business because they're like farmers. Their value, their estate is based in that small business, and so when they die, they're getting hit, they're getting hammered, and their heirs are going to have to go out and borrow money to pay the taxes, and those heirs then have that huge debt, especially if you get in difficult times. So it's a major problem.
Given the fact that the state's facing a potential $8 to $10 billion shortfall, is now the time to do this? Is it wise to dig the hole deeper before you start to put the ladder up?
I think, again, you heard Governor Kasich talk yesterday. It's a new day in Ohio. We have to take some pretty bold steps to be able to get us out of the downward spiral we're in. And I believe that it's important for people to know that have elected us that we mean what we said, and we are going to do all we can to eliminate this estate tax, and it's a very unfair tax.
And the impact on the state is so minimal. It's $60 million, but the impact on families and collectively on Ohioans is great and significant. And so, I would make the argument that this should have been ended a while ago. So today's the day that we start the process to kill the death tax here in the state.
We have time for one more question.
Some city officials that I've talked to have said, even if they're not hugely concerned about losing estate tax revenue, they are hugely concerned that this will be piled on top of a cut in the local government fund. What assurances can you give cities and townships and villages right now about whether or not they're going to? You're talking about double taxation. How do you talk about the double cut that they can face?
And we've had those discussions. I know there's concern in local government, and it's our library system as well as townships and cities. I believe that we will do all that we can to be cognizant of those concerns with local government fund. We want people to be successful, but it's a balance of many different issues to be successful as we move forward on behalf of the state. We need business, and we cannot be comfortable in the status quo of what has been the process here in Ohio for so many years. It's time for us to innovate and to solve many of our problems. I want to thank everyone for being here today, and certainly we'll be available for our offices if you have further follow-up questions.